Sophie was always curious about life and relationships. She was 25, studying English and psychology in college. She wanted to understand how people connect, communicate, and express love in safe and healthy ways. One day, in her psychology class, Sophie's professor started a discussion about relationships. He explained that intimacy is not only about physical closeness but also about trust, respect, and communication. Sophie listened carefully. She realized that many people feel confused about how to express love or pleasure. After class, Sophie went to the library to read more. She found books about love, trust, and consent. One book focused on how people explore intimacy safely. Sophie learned that understanding each other's feelings, likes, and boundaries was more important than anything else. She met her friend Clara, who was also curious about relationships. They decided to study together. Sophie asked, "How do people feel comfortable talking about intimacy?" Clara replied, "It's about honesty and knowing your own comfort first." Sophie nodded. She realized learning about relationships is like learning a new language. You have to be patient and attentive. Later that evening, Sophie wrote notes about communication, trust, and respect. She understood that every relationship is unique, and what is right for one person may be different for another. The key is empathy and understanding. Sophie also thought about future partners. She wanted to be confident, kind, and respectful. She wanted to communicate clearly about boundaries, feelings, and comfort. Learning these skills would help her have healthy, safe, and happy relationships. As Sophie closed her notebook, she felt excited. Learning about intimacy and trust was not embarrassing, it was empowering. She wanted to share these lessons with her friends, so everyone could feel confident and safe in their relationships. The next morning, Sophie met Clara at the library. They opened their notebooks and reviewed what they learned about trust and communication. Sophie wanted to understand more about expressing intimacy safely. She realized that asking questions and talking openly about feelings was very important. Clara shared her experience about respecting boundaries. "It's okay to say what you like and what you don't," she said. Sophie nodded and added notes in her notebook. She wrote, "Healthy relationships are based on honesty, consent, and respect." They discussed how partners can explore feelings while making each other feel safe. Later, Sophie read an article about expressing affection in different ways. It mentioned that emotional connection is just as important as physical closeness. Sophie realized that love involves patience, care, and understanding, not just actions. She felt more confident about learning how to communicate clearly and kindly. That evening, Sophie practiced talking about comfort zones with Clara. They role-played conversations, asking and listening respectfully. Sophie said, "I feel nervous sometimes, but it's okay to explain my feelings." Clara smiled. "That's exactly it. Sharing openly builds trust." Sophie understood that being honest was the first step to a healthy and happy relationship. Sophie also reflected on her own feelings. She thought about future situations and how she would respond respectfully. She wanted to feel confident in her choices and to communicate clearly, without shame or fear. Learning about intimacy this way felt empowering. As the day ended, Sophie wrote a summary in her notebook. She realized that communication and respect are the foundation for all healthy relationships. She felt excited to continue learning and practicing. Her goal was to always approach intimacy with empathy, understanding, and clear communication. A few days later, Sophie met her close friend, Liam. He was someone she trusted and felt comfortable talking to. Sophie wanted to practice communicating boundaries and expressing feelings in a real-life scenario. She felt nervous but also excited. They sat in the park and started a conversation. Sophie said, "I want to learn how to talk about feelings clearly, without making the other person uncomfortable." Liam nodded. "That's very responsible," he said. "It's important to be honest and kind at the same time." Sophie practiced asking questions about comfort and boundaries. "Is it okay if I share how I feel?" she asked. Liam replied, yes, and I will do the same. Sophie felt relieved. She realized that asking politely and listening carefully makes communication safe and respectful. They role-played different scenarios, including situations where someone might feel unsure or embarrassed. Sophie learned that it is okay to pause, think, and explain feelings calmly. She wrote notes in her notebook. Respect and patience are key. Never rush. Always listen. After the practice, Sophie reflected quietly. She understood that relationships are about mutual understanding, not just following rules. Each person's feelings and boundaries matter equally. Sophie felt proud of herself for practicing honesty and empathy. Later that evening, Sophie shared her insights with Clara over a video call. They discussed how learning communication and respect early would help in every relationship. Sophie said, I feel more confident about myself and my choices. Clara smiled and encouraged her to keep practicing in real life. Sophie realized that understanding feelings, setting boundaries, and respecting them is not awkward or shameful. It is an essential life skill. She felt empowered and ready for the next step. Facing unexpected situations with honesty, empathy, and courage. The next week, Sophie was invited to a small gathering at Clara's house. Several friends were there, and the topic of relationships came up naturally. Sophie felt nervous but remembered all the lessons she had learned about communication, empathy, and boundaries. During the conversation, someone asked Sophie about comfort and consent in relationships. She took a deep breath and spoke clearly, it's important to know your feelings first. You should express them honestly, and listen to the other person with respect. Boundaries are not limitations, they are protection for both people. Her friends listened carefully, impressed by her thoughtful answers. Sophie realized she could help others understand these ideas too. She felt proud and confident, knowing that learning about communication and consent was empowering. Later, Sophie reflected quietly in her room. She remembered the first time she started learning about intimacy and trust. Now, she felt stronger, more confident, and ready for any situation. Understanding feelings, respecting boundaries, and honest communication were no longer intimidating, they were tools for healthy, safe, and happy relationships. Sophie smiled and thought, I can handle this. I know myself, and I know how to communicate. She felt empowered, knowing that every relationship she builds will have trust, respect, and understanding. If you enjoyed Sophie's journey of learning about trust, boundaries, and communication, don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Learn English stories for more emotional and educational stories. Share with friends to help everyone learn healthy relationship skills.